Welcome to Modern Musings, conversations with the maiden mother and crone, looking at ourselves and the world through the lens of the 21st century. Welcome back. I'm Amber Garvin, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Cindy Murray and Christen Hessler.
Hi.
And we are recording on location from the Holland Hotel in Alpine, Texas. Now, where the heck is Alpine, Texas?
It is just north of the Big Bend National Park.
Yes, it is.
In the deep southwest Texas.
Deep southwest.
Deep southwest Texas.
You know, when we spent an awesome day at Big Bend, didn't we?
Yes, we did. It was pretty awesome.
Yes. And,
it's a beautiful park.
We took lots of pictures and had lots of fun times.
A lot of scary driving.
Christen does not like hills or curves. Or anything over 20 miles an hour.
Speaking of scary, which kind of segues into that, we are talking about horror movies because guess what? It's October. Well, you knew that obviously, but it's October. So we are talking about horror movies. Our favorites, what we like, what we don't like. Horror movies in general. So I guess you could say Cindy's Driving is like a horror movie.
Hey, I take...
What?
Her turns as fast as she can with one hand on the wheel and the other one pointing at something on the side of the road.
Hey, I resemble that remark.
She resembles that remark.
And every time Christen was like, oh, look at that, Cindy would go and take the car with her. Yeah.
Hey, you know, it's hard not to look. It is.
True. And it's hard not to turn the wheel when you're trying to look.
Absolutely.
So, the reason we're doing this episode from the Holland Hotel is that the Holland Hotel is considered one of the 13 most haunted hotels in the state of Texas. Now, apparently, there are 12 other haunted hotels and I actually work near one. It's called the Adolphus Hotel in downtown Dallas. So, and they have a really nice little coffee shop. But, yeah, it's, there's another one in Fort Worth, I believe, a haunted hotel.
Oh, wow. I had no idea.
Yeah, so we were in the area, and we decided that we wanted to stay at this haunted hotel. And we're going to stay here 2 nights. And Christen has already heard weird noises, but it turned out to be the coffee pot.
Yeah.
So, we're waiting on some paranormal activity here while we're talking about horror movies.
So if you hear us screaming and running for the door.
Okay, so everybody, if you're a loyal listener, you know I'm pretty weird. And I'm getting married soon, and the person I'm marrying is pretty weird as well. And he is actually a scare actor for the Cutting Edge Haunted House in Fort Worth, Texas. And it is one of, or the biggest haunted house in the United States, I believe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he is, he's a scare actor, so he gets dressed up all through October, and other times a year they have like a Valentine's Day show and a Christmas show. And he goes and he scares people for a living, at least in October. I mean, he's a chef all other times, but
that's his passion. That's his fun.
Yeah, his fun. Our fun is this podcast. His fun is dressing up and scaring the living daylights out of people.
Even my son would have. That's what Steven should have done when he was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Like
because
that.
he used to creep around corners and wait for people to walk
Yeah.
and just to make you jump.
Oh,
Yeah.
Jason does that too, like all the time. Like
Drive me crazy.
we try to see if we can scare each other.
Uh-huh.
And I'll be like sitting in bed reading, and I see out of the corner of my eye someone crawling through the bedroom door and trying to slither around to the other side of the bed so he can jump up and
He can
scare
scare
me.
you.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and so we do that a lot as a thing, try to scare each other.
Yeah, Raina's discovered that recently.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
So now she's been going around doing that too.
So I'm marrying somebody who's into horror and horror movies, and I'm into weird things, but I myself love horror movies. Now, I mean, I like some of the modern stuff. I'm not really like a big fan of like the well, no. I'm talking about more like I'm not a real big fan of the gore just to be gore movies. But I am a huge fan of cheesy 1980s horror movies. What about you ladies?
Well, I grew up watching horror movies, as did Kristen,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because my mother was a huge horror movie buff. And we're not talking cheesy 80s movies. We're talking, what was that face for?
Just
A thought.
yeah.
Okay. And she liked these B movies like The Blob and things, Creature from the Black Lagoon and things like that. And so I remember watching all of those with her. And as soon as I was old enough to go to R-rated movies, which was probably when I was 14 or 15, she wanted a partner to go to the movies with her. So we went and we saw all the stupid, prom night and there were so many of them that were so bad. Orca. I can't even tell you anything that was just cheesy and scary, and she liked all those.
My absolute favorite cheesy, scary horror movie is called Waxwork.
Yes.
Like,
the
and-
steak tartare.
Yeah, the steak tartare.
Yeah.
Yes,
I
there's
actually watched that with my grandmother.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, it's like one of my absolute favorite. I love both of them. There's a Waxwork 1 and a Waxwork 2, and it is my absolute favorite cheesy horror movie. There's like a little guy, welcome to the Waxwork, and
Did they remake those too?
well, the Waxworks were like people who were like kidnapped from different like areas in time by a wizard guy, and they were like preserved into horror scenes
in a wax museum.
In a wax museum,
Okay.
yeah. And he was like a demon or something like that, and he was trying to like
Yes.
open up the gates of hell.
They did in 2005. They remade it called House of Wax.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
that one was really scary.
Well,
It was actually kind of scary.
yeah, and that guy actually took like candle wax and stuff like that and preserved humans.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like waxwork was more like, yeah, they were like made from wax, but they were like taken from like different time periods
Okay.
and put in like a horror scene movie for each waxwork. And then they were like demons or evil or something like that. And what happened was the people that visited the museum got sucked in to the display, and then they lived out the drama that turned them into a waxwork. Like as they got killed in the fantasy, they turned into a waxwork, and then the guy opened the gates to hell or whatever, and they all came alive and as demons to go and kill people. But they ended up burning down the Wax Museum. And so Waxwork 2 picks up to where, like, the main guy from Waxwork 1, he has to travel through time to save somebody.
Oh.
I forgot who he had to save. I just remember, like, the cheesiness where, like, he had, like, a time, like, maybe clock or whatever, Time Warrior clock.
Okay.
And it was just like he, like all the Waxworks were like in the first one, different moments in time. He was like traveling through all of these horror movie moments, and he was becoming part of them, kind of like Quantum Leap.
Okay.
But it was like in a horror movie format.
Okay.
And I just like loved it so much, because the second one especially, because it had Bruce Campbell from The Evil Dead in one of the scenes, and they were so cheesy and funny. Like, he ends up in like a Godzilla world in a Godzilla horror movie, and he's dressed up to look like he's Asian. And then it's even like the whole like subtitle thing. Everybody looks up at Godzilla, and they're all speaking in subtitles, and he said he sees Godzilla and he goes, "Oh no," and it's not in his voice, it's a dubbed voice. And then he looks around like, did that just happen? And that's like my favorite part of the movie. It's so cheesy.
So yeah, you like the cheesy ones, and Mom doesn't like the boo kind of
I do not like the boo. I like the cheesy ones too. And like I was talking about, my mom, I remember some that she did. Like, she likes the ones where, like a lot of the ones that had monsters that were like the claymation type things, you know.
Like the Godzilla.
like Clash of the Titans.
Yeah.
But like one of the ones that I'm trying to remember what it was called, Food of the Gods. That one was so horribly bad, and it was like these people are, I don't know where they are. I don't want to give the whole story away, but they go to this place, and this woman has a farm, and she's like, I can't remember exactly, but it's like they're trying to produce more food and more food. Well, she has discovered this food of the gods, which is something that occurs naturally on this island or wherever they were, and the animals eat it. Well, she was using it to like make big produce and stuff, you know, make things grow, like giant cherries or you know, whatever, giant vegetables. But the animals would get this stuff too. So there's like giant bees and, you know, things like that are trying to sting people. It was really cheesy. And then there was another one called
Oh yeah.
Yes, and it was, and some of these have actually been remade, but they were not as nearly as good as the first.
Is that the guy that turns into a snake?
He turns into a snake.
I
this
watched
guy's
that
was
with her too.
Yeah, he was researching.
Creepy.
He was researching snake venom, and he was injecting people with snake venom and whatever to turn them into snakes. And then there's the Island of Dr. Moreau, which is a similar concept, where the doctor is experimenting with turning animals into people, and then I think he starts trying to turn people into animals. And so that was kind of a weird
Yeah,
thing.
those are bizarre.
And it was remade, but it was not nearly as good as the first one. And the first one was really cheesy.
So, my favorite horror movies are probably the ones where people are traveling and they get lost. The Descent is where a group of girls go mountain climbing, and they go into like this unexplored cave, and they get lost in the cave, and then someone falls and breaks their leg, you know, and all this bad stuff happens, and it gets a little bit more like weird as the story goes. And then like Blair Witch Project was always one of my favorites. Just the whole idea of
Oh my gosh, I was
how they
obsessed
made
with
that
that when it came out.
because there was nothing like that before.
Yeah,
I
it was the
loved-
very first found footage horror.
Love that. And there's been a lot of a similar. I mean, even The Descent kind of is like that. They're, I think they're. No, is that what had cameras in? I don't remember if they were video filming their exploration or not. But there's a bunch of other movies like that on Netflix where, like, a group of guys will go on their little expedition and like weird stuff happens.
Oh, As Above, So Below.
Yeah, that's the other one I was thinking.
love
That one is really good. So
That
they're in
one's
the
really
catacombs
good.
in France.
They're very psychological as well. Like they're more under like the psychological like horror horror genre because you don't really know what is happening. Like is it like ghosts, demons, whatever,
Or is it just the people being scared
yeah,
out of
people
their
going
minds
crazy, yeah.
because- Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good genre also.
Yeah, I like the Saw movies, and I don't like things that jump out or scare you or whatever. But the gore doesn't. Gore
the first
doesn't
one was
necessarily-
very psychological.
It
though.
was.
You
That was
like it?
that's the only one I've seen.
And then they got all like,
Yeah, they got different.
let's do weird torture things.
Yeah. But that one was I liked that one because it was kind of a psychological, thing twist to it.
They should
Silence
stop with that one.
Silence of the Lambs similarly. So I mean it's horror but it's all that psychological twisting of him, getting into Claire's head and messing with her, and those kind of things are
See, I
freaky.
consider that one a psychological thriller and not a horror movie.
Okay. See, I
But
don't
a
know.
lot of people do consider
I
it
think it a horror movie
It
because
is
it
when I
has
saw it, I was
a serial
deeply
killer.
disappointed because I was watching it thinking it was a horror movie, and I was like,
So you
when's it
thought a
gonna get-
slasher was going to be going around killing people, kind of thing?
or so- yeah, I was just waiting for it to get scary, and
So
y'all
it wasn't scary.
Did you know that there are 35 different subgenres of horror?
Wow.
Nice.
Slasher is just one of them.
Right.
A
Right.
killer. Like we were talking about psychological, the Descent, stuff like that. And then like madness, like The Shining, people going crazy. And then, okay, one of my favorites is home invasion and survival. I love the Purge movies.
Okay.
I love them. And then there's a movie called You're Next.
Oh, I've heard of that one. Yeah.
That's a home invasion one. And then Ready or Not.
There
I
was
really
one,
like that
the
one as
panic room, similar thing because they're trapped in,
And then I also like art house horror. But that is more of like kind of psychological. I mean, it could be a little bit of like everything, really. Just like creepy stuff happening. But there are so many genres. Yeah, like slasher is totally just one of them. Like
a lot of people like the monster movies.
That's
Yeah.
different. Oh, and then there's zombie, Zombie.
post-apocalyptic
There are some-
horror,
survivalists. Yeah.
cannibals.
Oh yeah.
You said monsters, viruses.
Oh yeah.
Virus for
like
28
Outbreak.
days later, outbreak. That's considered horror as well. Vampires, werewolves, which those I consider monsters, but since there are so many of them, they're kind of subgenres of their own. Vampires and
Well,
werewolves.
there's other kinds of monsters too that are
like the
Like
Thing.
Slither.
the
Slither.
thing. The thing was really
Yeah. Mythological, like La Llorona. Krampus.
good. Oh yeah.
Krampus.
Yeah, mythological ones.
Jack Frost.
Yeah.
Like animals in nature, like Jaws is considered a horror movie.
Right. That's
And-
I was talking about the orca movie,
Yeah.
the killer whales or whatever. It was a big killer whale.
I watched a crazy one when I was a kid about killer rabbits called Night of the Lepus. That had to have been one that your mom would have
She
liked.
would have loved that. Yes.
Yeah, but it's like about killer rabbits living underground in rabbit holes, like big, huge rabbits the size of cars.
Okay.
So yeah, it was called Night of the Lepus.
Okay. Arachnophobia.
Yeah.
Oh, the big spiders.
Yes.
Oh, and then eight-legged freaks. That's kind of a parody, though, of arachnophobia.
I actually am terrified of spiders, but I made myself watch Arachnophobia.
What about sci-fi like Alien?
Yeah, that's
yes.
another genre.
That
yeah,
is,
Alien.
and there's quite a few of those as well.
The
And that was
Fly.
Yeah, The Fly was and I watched the original Fly a long time ago with my mother, and then watched it again with the Jeff Goldblum version of it. So
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, about the original. Yeah, aliens, sci-fi.
help me. Yeah, there's a lot of those. I really it's weird because I always say I don't like horror movies, but I have for a long time liked and watched horror movies. I watched all of the Stephen King movies up until probably It. I never saw It. And I don't know why I never saw It. But I'm Cujo, The Shining, Salem's Lot, Carrie.
I mean, all of that is horror, just like
It is.
different ways to look at it, like Possession,
Yeah.
the Stephen King universe, like the monsters and like everything being connected.
Right.
The Stand, The Outbreak.
The Stand was
like
The Stand is probably my favorite post-apocalyptic type book. That is probably by far my favorite.
Kind of horror too, in a sense.
Yeah.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, because of
Post-apocalyptic.
the
Good
the-
versus evil,
Yes.
death and killing, and Randall Flagg was a boogeyman.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
So
Waxworks, 1924.
Oh, the
Have you
original.
seen that one?
no, I have not seen Waxwork.
There you go.
You know,
Now
I
got
wonder if
something to-
Waxwork was a remake of that one.
Mhm.
I bet it was.
Probably.
They do that a lot.
Oh yeah, horror movies like on over and over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially things that are kind of common,
Like
the Dracula story, the Frankenstein story.
they're coming out with a new
They do
Dracula
that over
coming
and over
up.
and over again.
Oh, then they just came out with several months ago Renfield
Yeah,
about Dracula,
Mhm.
and then they're coming out with it's a remake of Nosferatu. Yeah.
I watched that in 3rd grade with my mother.
And there was in Waxwork too, there was a parody of Nosferatu because, like I said, the different horror points in time, like one of the characters ends up getting stuck. It was Jack the Ripper.
Oh.
Ended up getting stuck in Nosferatu's world, and he got eaten by Nosferatu.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So, do you guys have favorite directors?
Oh my gosh, the Grindhouse director, what is his name? Tarantino, maybe?
Okay.
Yeah, because he did Dust Till Dawn, Vampires. He did the Grindhouse movies. One of my favorite movies that he did was Death Proof with Kurt Russell. And I was just talking about that when we were talking about hanging your leg out and arm out of the car.
Yeah.
When we were driving earlier, I was
Yeah.
talking about, have you ever seen Death Proof? Because he hits somebody whose leg was hanging out the window and her leg goes flying.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Basically, it's about a guy who Kurt Russell plays a stunt driver. and his car is a stunt car. And so he's all secure in one side of the car, and then in the other side, it's just like a weird car, just with like wooden seats or something like that. And so he wants to like kill these girls, but he picks another girl up at the bar and sticks her in the weird side of the car. But he's following these other girls because he's wanting to stalk them because they were also at the bar. But he's like, I'll give you a ride home to the girl that was sitting at the bar, played by Rose McGowan, I believe. And he sticks her in there, and then he follows these other girls and decides that like he wants to ram them with the car. So he goes and he turns around and comes back and hits them straight on with Rose McGowan. And he ends up like also in the hospital, but he like was, pretending like, oh, he had like a heart attack or something. But he just gets like a scratch. And like all the other girls get murdered.
Wow.
Yeah.
And he like does that for a living. Like he's a serial killer and he kills people with stunt cars.
Wow. Weird. That's weird.
Very strange. So
Very
one definite notable would be Rob Zombie.
Oh
Wow.
House of a Thousand Corpses.
I
That
do
was
like House of a Thousand
a
Corpses.
wild movie.
I think one of mine would be, and keep in mind that I have not watched horror movies in a long time. John Carpenter was a great one.
Oh yeah.
And so was Wes Craven.
Yeah.
Oh, Scream movies, yeah.
Well, and Freddy Krueger, all the Nightmare on Elm Street stuff, that was one of the, it was genre changing, because it was so different than anything that had been made to date, even though it was still on that.
It was still hacker slasher,
It
but
was.
it was more fantasy.
Well,
Impossible.
and it was a lot more gory
Mm-hmm.
than anything else before that, and it was full of all those jump and scare you kind of things, but it really was just so graphic. And nowadays, it seems like everything is really, really graphic like that. I think to the point that we're being desensitized to it.
Oh, sure.
But I don't know. At the time that like Nightmare on Elm Street came out, that was just so unique, and I was still into watching a lot of horror at that point in time, so I really liked that one.
So, an up-and-coming director that I really like, and he only has like a few horror movies out now, but Jordan Peele. Like, he's got to be one of my most favorite directors, honestly. Like, I love his movies. Get Out and Nope. Very psychological.
Yeah,
two completely different things, but two completely different movies, but very psychological movies.
I have not seen those, but those both intrigued me, but I was afraid to watch them. Because I don't like that jumping out kind of stuff, but those looked really cool. They did.
Well,
they looked like a cool concept.
Like, Nope was definitely an interesting concept, and also another, like, not really home invasion, but, like, home-type horror, where, like, there's this, family in a house, and weird things happen.
Yeah.
Like Nope, You're Next, and Ready or Not. Like, those are like my three like weird house invasion type horrors that I like type movies, not horrors.
I like the ones where people go to a dinner and they all get picked off one by one.
Yeah, you're next. Like
Is that
that's
one
how
Jack
it
Hughes?
Wasn't
starts.
there?
Yeah.
And I haven't seen it, but I saw ads for it. Wasn't there one called The Menu that was
Oh, that one's really good.
that looked really good.
That's y'all need to see that one. That is probably one of my most favorite movies I watched last year.
Really?
Mm.
Yeah, I kept looking for that. Like I said, I like the idea of watching horror movies,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just I've gotten so I don't know. I have to watch them during the daytime. I can't watch them with other people because if other people start jumping and then I freak out
Mm-hmm.
and I don't I try to keep the suspense down a little bit just because it's just a little much for me. And
Yeah.
it never was before, but that's what it does. So yeah.
I remember watching Pet Cemetery when I was probably way too young to watch Pet Cemetery.
Thank you, Mom.
And I usually didn't get scared of movies, but that one is probably one that haunted me and still does. Because there's a couple of elements that were really creepy, like the wife's sister. I think she had like a relative that was like in their room, and she had to go feed soup to her sister. It was like kind of creepy. I don't know. She like flashed back to like
Oh, it was like her childhood. Yeah.
and that lady was creepy. And then also just like the other elements of the death and resurrection. I remember being probably like 12 or less, maybe 10 years old. And I remember I was jumping on the bed at my grandma's house. And then I heard meow, like a cat.
Oh.
I guess the cat was under the bed and she didn't like me jumping on the bed. But I had recently watched that Pet Cemetery movie
Oh, God.
where the cat was the first thing to be resurrected that went awry. And I was terrified of my grandmother's cat after watching that movie. And like I remember standing on the bed and crying because I was afraid to get down from the bed because I thought the cat was gonna like cut my ankles.
That was two different, two different things, like the cat and then the kid cut the ankles.
No, but I like, and then there was a movie that, thank my grandmother for, desensitizing me, but also traumatizing me at the same time, watching horror movies way, way earlier than I probably should have. But I remember watching this movie, and I've never been able to figure out what the movie is, but this guy's dog, like, digs up a corpse or something, or he's walking around with a bone in his mouth, and this could be, like, completely wrong remembering, but I remember him taking the bone away from the dog and flushing it down the toilet, and that's why I'm like, what? Who would do that?
Right.
But he flushed it down the toilet, and then a hand came out of the toilet.
Oh.
And then for the longest time after that, I was always afraid that something was going to come get me out of the toilet. Yeah.
Oh man.
Well, it's not really a movie, but it was a book that I read. It was a Dean Koontz book called Intensity, and there was a scene where the serial killer, well, the heroine of the movie or the book is creeping around the house. She knows there's somebody there, a serial killer or whatever, and she goes into the parents' bedroom, and the husband's sitting up in bed like he was in bed, and his throat was slashed or something, I don't know, and the shower was running, so she went in to talk to the mother, and the mother was in the shower, dead. But the thing, it was kind of all staged by this guy. And the weird, creepy thing about this movie was he was a horrible thing, and I don't want to give it away, but the premise of this whole thing was that you would never guess who the bad guy was.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, reading that book, and those are some of the best ones that are like that, because like if you don't know who the bad guy is, but these bad things keep happening,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was really interesting the way that.
I think that's why everybody liked Scream
Yeah,
when that came
right.
out, because the ending was a surprise.
Right. Well, and with that, the
It
intensity,
really was.
it's, you're talking about not being able to sit on the toilet and stuff. I still, to this day, when I come into my bedroom, if Mark's already in bed, I stop and I listen to hear if he's breathing or not.
Mm-hmm.
And then I go in my bathroom and I flip on the light and I look in the shower to make sure there's not somebody in the shower. And, and it's totally irrational, but that scene just set that up for me, like,
to have that fear. Yeah.
and I was an
Yeah.
adult when I read that book, but it, I think it kind of traumatizes you in a way, it
Yeah.
does. And I've gotten where I don't tolerate that very well.
Yeah.
I will replay those scenes. I mean, it's been 20 years probably since I read that book,
Mhm.
and that scene is still playing over and over and over in my
And
head.
that's
it's like
something you
that
read.
one scene from Deliverance.
Yeah,
I can't get over that scene.
yeah.
I would say that would probably be a horror also.
Yeah, definitely. Kubrick, Stanley Kubrick.
Mhm.
Definitely.
Oh, yeah. That was
Yeah.
a good story.
Yeah.
The Hills Have Eyes.
Oh my gosh.
That's a good one.
And yeah, I mean, like the slashy, or not the slashy, but just like the crazy, gory like that. I can't handle a lot anymore either, like I did when I was younger.
Like the ripping off the fingernails and
Oh.
stuff. The
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
that makes
I
you like
can't.
cringe.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Saw stuff, like not the first movie, but like the torture
Right.
Mhm.
horror. Like I can't do that anymore.
Right.
Oh, speaking of torture horror, this is like the creepiest movie ever then, probably. Human Centipede.
Oh,
I have not seen that, but everybody that I know that has seen that said they were traumatized by that movie.
Yeah.
That it
yeah,
was so
that's
horrible.
It was the most absurd, but
Horrible.
also horrible and just like,
Disgusting.
yeah.
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 Makes you wonder about the minds of people who come up with things like that. Yeah. I don't know. It's crazy.
Just it's just like a deep dive in like the things that people can come up with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a really interesting point. Like, I never really thought about that, but it's thinking of like the most absurd things or wrong things that you shouldn't think about or
Mhm.
do,
Mm-hmm.
but then creating them into like a reality of
Right.
sense without actually doing them.
Yeah.
Very interesting. That makes you wonder, like, at what point do you cross the line? Or draw the line, I mean.
Right.
Where is the line?
I agree.
Definitely, and that's definitely like a crazy way, a different way to look at the horror genre.
Yeah. There was a movie that I saw that I was, like, appalled. And I usually don't, like, want to get up and leave a movie theater, but I think it was, like, Last House on the Left.
Oh, I can, like, at that, yeah.
There's a scene, like, very,
Similar to the Deliverance one, honestly.
yeah, very early on in the movie where
Mm.
someone gets sexually accosted, and it was like real,
Right.
like it didn't
Very
look like
realistic.
acting.
Yeah.
It was like watching it happen, and that was very difficult to watch in the movie theater.
Mm.
Like, I was sitting there eating my popcorn with everybody else, like, being a witness to something. I mean, it didn't really happen, but that's what I
Right.
felt like. I was being a witness to it. And I guess that's the point of the movie, is it's supposed to make you feel like art does that too. It's supposed to invoke those feelings.
Right.
Like, I
Yeah.
cried. I was bawling in the movie theater because it was very emotional, and it was difficult to watch, and part of me wanted to get up and leave, but it was only like 20 minutes into the movie, so it was like, I just got here.
Right.
But I went ahead and I watched it. So there's another movie based on a real life horror, where this woman like had her niece. I guess she got her niece and nephew. They came to live with her because their parents passed away, and she locked her niece in the basement, but she let her nephew and the neighborhood kids run amok and cause a lot of problems, and they were very inappropriate, and like, you know, she would like put cigarettes out on her and stuff.
Oh.
Yeah. It was one of those like human torture kind of movies.
Yeah, yeah.
But that one's based on a true story.
Ugh.
Oh my gosh, let me try to remember what that movie was called, because that one was also hard to watch. I think it was called The Girl Next Door.
Oh.
Yeah, The Girl Next Door. I just looked it up.
Is it The Girl Next Door or Girl Next Door?
I think it's called The Girl Next Door.
Yeah, it was a real life murder.
Wow.
Okay. Jack Ketchum's The Girl Next Door, also known as Jack Ketchum's Evil, is a 2007 American thriller horror film by Gregory Wilson. And there's a novel about it also, which it was inspired by the real life murder of Sylvia Likens. But that was insane, very insane movie. And I guess that's like a whole nother genre too, like reality stuff. That's, you know, remakes of real true things that have happened.
Yeah. Well, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I don't know how much that one. I don't know the whole story behind that one, but I know that was. Yeah. It was. I'm sure fictionalized to some extent, but that was a true story.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like I said, I don't know that much about it, but
Deep in the heart of Texas.
Okay, well, does anybody else have anything that they want to talk about? Or we want to hear from our listeners. What are your favorite horror movies? And what horror movies do you like to watch in October? What are your favorite Halloween horror movies? Please follow us on Facebook and check out our Facebook group, MMC Chat, and like answer our poll that we post.
yeah.
We started posting a poll every week on MMC Chat, so go on, answer the poll, and let us know what your favorite horror movies are. Also, check out our blogs. So, what are we talking about next week?
So next week we're talking about personal mottos and values, and what that means to you and our culture and society.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
sounds like
That sounds interesting.
sounds like a good episode.
Yeah,
Well-
looking forward to it.
Yeah. Well, we would like to thank Cake Mix Studios and Creative Audio Tech for our sound and our equipment, or our equipment and our sound. And we would also like to thank our loyal listeners who keep coming back and listening to us every week. We love you guys. And we hope to catch you next week.
Bye.
Bye. Podcast.